Hi guys, welcome back. So in today's video, I'm going to talk to you guys about my experience during Mod 1. It was Friday to the Sunday. You arrive late on the Friday and then you go whenever they let you out on the Sunday. Prior to Mod 1, we had all of our kits checked by the unit to make sure you're going with everything. For Mod 1, there is no training, so you don't need the majority of your kit, just pretty much yourself, your notepads and pens and things like that. But they want you to have everything just as a way of checking that you have everything that you need to complete your Mod 1, your Mod 2 and your Mod 3. So if there is any problems, then you have a long period of time to get it sorted. So we went down to our barracks, brought all of our kit. It was actually a huge nightmare for myself because I was taking train, so I was carrying the huge black bag with all of my kit. I actually took my kit to the unit over a number of weeks, so I didn't have to carry it all in one go. Once all of that was checked, we left our stuff there at the barracks. There were a few things that I didn't have. I had 1 or 2 days to get it, so I was rushing around shopping, just trying to get everything that I needed. I got a few swimsuits. They wanted me to have a full black swimsuit, but I got one and it had a bit of a strappy back, and then I got another one, but it had the underwire cup styled out on the swimsuit and they didn't like that, so the third one I had to get. It was just an absolute nightmare to get a hold of. Boot polish, they didn't like the brand of boot polish, so every unit is different, but my unit was very particular of what I could bring, and they very to the books, old style. They don't want you to have anything strappy or anything. They just want everything to be plain, simple, so when you are there just can't be any problems. They told me a story of where a girl went swimming and the female came in with a bit of a strappy swimsuit on. An older guy from the army just sent her out. They were like, you're not wearing that, kind of out. So we don't want anything like that, so just go very plain, very boring. I also had to get some gym shorts. I wasn't issued any, I don't know why, but I'm not going to complain about it because they are very peculiar looking things. So I went to Nike. I got the longest ones that I could find. Also the one with the double layer, because if you're sitting down, you don't want everyone looking up your shorts. So I got the most boring looking ones. I must say, everything that I have, I look like a man. And for the majority of the army kit is built for men anyway, so that's just what we have to get used to. On the Friday, we had to arrive at the barracks around 5-6 o'clock just to be there in good time, get our stuff, load it into the van, and thankfully there was actually a good 5 of us going, so there was about 3 men and 2 females, including myself. So it was a lot of fun. We went to Pirbright for Mod 1, which isn't too far, but before actually going, I was feeling very nervous because I didn't know what to expect. I've heard Mod 1, 2, 3 training stories about other people's experiences, so you're just basically going off of that, and that's what I was doing. And some people had bad experiences. Some people went to different units, so they had their experiences there, which may be completely different to Pirbright. I heard that Pirbright was the harder barracks to go to for your training because they train full-time soldiers there. So you know, I was feeling very nervous, but I was feeling a bit skeptical at the same time and being just very open-minded of what to expect and using my imagination of what it was going to be like, army rules were going to be like, and things like that. I have a few friends who are in the army, so I did speak to them before going just to get their experiences and if they had any recommendations, and they just said just look at it as a game, not necessarily treat it as a game and just not take it seriously. You're only there for a short amount of time, so just embrace it, embrace the challenges, the change, embrace the army life, just try and enjoy it the best that you can. So those were the recommendations that they told me, and I have to say they did really help. We were told from a few people from our unit went there a few weeks before us, and they said it was just death by PowerPoints, no physical training, no fitness side of things, just PowerPoints, and the whole weekend felt like a month, they said. So I thought, oh my goodness, like how many PowerPoints are we going to be watching here? Also, we were going, a good few of us, to the barracks, so it wasn't as intimidating because we already had people there that we knew and we were all going to go through it together and look out for each other, which was really nice to have. When we arrived, it was quite late. I think the latest time that you can arrive there is 9 o'clock. We arrived about 8:30. We went and stopped off and got something to eat because we didn't know if we were going to be able to eat when we were there. We had to make sure that we had our passes out. We had to have our COVID test before we could actually go into the housing that we were going to be in, and it was all blocked off, and they all had numbers and we all did it at the same time. It was very well structured. I did feel like their COVID rules and what they they had implemented for COVID were really good, because I can imagine how many people they're training in and out of the barracks, so they have to be very careful with that. Once we've done our COVID tests, we have to wait outside or in the sports hall. I think it was around 20 minutes until we got our results. Had to put our details into the government COVID website and do all of that. And once we were all cleared and checked off, we grabbed our bags from the van, told where we were going to go, and just lug it. Huge amounts of bags. Oh my gosh, it was just a ridiculous amount. But anyway, we got it. We brought it there and took it into our rooms. So for the training, there's allocated slots for the females and there's slots for the males. Of course, the male takes up the majority of the slots. There was only a few of us in the females. So as we were walking in, there's an allocated bunker room, bedroom. I went to boarding school and we used to call it dorm room, so I'm just going to call it dorm room for the females. And then there was a number, I think it was 3 other dorm rooms for the guys. Pretty much all of the guys' dorms were full, and the females, there was tons of beds left. There was about 5 or 6 of us. When we arrived into the girls' dorm, we were actually the last people to be there. The girls had already taken the bed, so my friend and I, there was like a little section, so we plonked ourselves there, and the other girls had the other sections, and we just introduced ourselves and we just got talking. It was really nice to meet different people. They're all from different ages, different kind of backgrounds, from different units, from the Incorps, logistics, from so many different units. It was just really interesting to see their experience, how far they had come from. Some girls had come all the way from Manchester and one girl from Scotland, so they come from all over the place. For your training, it just depends on which slot you can get. You could go to all sorts of different barracks. So that was really interesting. So on the first night, they give you time to settle in, unpack your stuff, learn how to make the beds. The bed making was very strange. It was completely baffling at the start. When you walk in and you have your bed, nothing's made. They have your sheets in a very neat order with all the cupboards doors open. I'm guessing from all the checks from the previous people had been in there. You have to make your beds. It's a bit like hospital-styled bed making, of tucking the sheets in perfectly and then having this blue sheet laying across the bed. I think every unit has a different way of doing it, but this is just the way that they wanted it done at Pirbright. So this was the point where I was like, okay, here we go, we're here now, we're gonna do it, we're just gonna get it done, embrace everything. And I kept reminding myself throughout the whole time, this is a game, you know, whatever you're gonna be faced with, it's not gonna last forever, nothing lasts forever. And that's something which really helped me get through. We got to meet our officer in charge. There was about 3 different corporals in charge and 1 sergeant. They all got us on the line. They had to shout, everyone on the line, and everyone's like, what works? We were like, all new to everything, so we were like, what does on the line mean? So anyway, I saw everyone running out, so I was just following. I was like, okay, this is new. And they left us there for about half an hour before actually coming out and talking to us. They did actually say they left us there on purpose to build resilience. From there, they told us all the rules about what they expect, how we're going to be treated, how we must treat everybody else, going through all of that. So when we did go on the line, everyone has their different groups, so they have 1, 2, 3, 4. The girls were number 1. I think it's set by dorms, and every time you're on the line you need to get in your sections. We had to shout our number to make sure everyone was here. The sergeant in charge said, I want you to go 1 all the way to the end, and at the end you have to say last man or last woman, last person. They started the numbers, and the first guy at the front, he was supposed to shout 1 and he goes 2, and then the sergeant was like, what cat badge are you? And he goes, infantry. Well, that's freaking why. He was infantry, so he was allowed to say that. But anyway, it was just, they do like to have a joke around. Their sense of humours are different to what I've ever experienced before. It was something to get used to, but I think you just need to embrace everything. But after they had their talk, they shouted at us and said, fire alarm, get the hell out. And we were all sprinting down the corridors and going down the stairs. Like, I was holding onto the rails. I didn't come all this way to get injured, so I was like creeping down the stairs. Because that was actually my one main worry, is getting injured. I'd waited months to get this Mod 1 booking. I just thought, I cannot get injured. And one guy that I met, he said he didn't actually run for 2 weeks because he was so scared he was going to get injured before. I think this is what happens when you wait so long for your Mod 1. When it comes around, you're thinking, if anything happens and I can't do Mod 1, I'm going to have to wait months for the next one. And I think that's a big problem at the moment. It's just a huge backlog. That's just something the army are dealing with at the moment. So all the way that they are talking to us, the rules, everything is just to prepare you for army life and how it's going to be going into the army and what they expect, and just they want to build discipline and integrity and loyalty. They want to drill that all into you. They do start that off very slowly, and I did notice that at the start. So before we went to bed, we had to iron our stuff. I brought an iron, but no one seemed to bring an iron board. But to be honest, we didn't actually use an ironing board. We just ironed on the table, which probably wasn't the best. But they weren't very strict on the uniform at the start. I don't think we had any checks on the uniform. So every day they have an itinerary of what your next day is going to consist of. On the first night, they did keep us on the line for some time. We were provided with sandwiches, a packet of crisps, fruit, a cereal bar. They kept us up until about 12 o'clock, and he said, I have kept you guys up until 12 o'clock because you're going to get up really early the next day and I want you guys to be tired. It's just building that resilience. When it did hit 12 o'clock, we still had a few things to pack away, so we didn't actually get to bed till about 1 o'clock. My alarm went off about 4:30 in the morning. Putting all your kit on and make sure everything's perfect so they can't spot anything wrong. I had all of my stuff, all of my shower stuff, and toothbrushes, alarm clocks, everything out, and you have to shove them into a different locker. They don't want to see anything out. That's something that we had to do every single morning. I checked the itinerary, making sure that I had everything for after breakfast and everything was prepared, and then being on the line for that certain time. So if you need to be outside for 6 o'clock, you cannot be on time. You have to be at least 5 minutes before. If you're on time, you're late. So that's another thing that I learned. I bought loads of coffee bags. I bought a flask with me because that is my morale. I was told at unit, bring things as your morale, which is things that keep you going, which makes you feel good. You are going to go through challenging times during training, so it just gives you that bit of a boost. And my one was coffee and snacks. I knew it was going to be PowerPoint, and I thought, oh, nice hot coffee would be amazing. All of us were together. We all marched. You have to march everywhere. We marched to breakfast. We had 10 minutes to eat and be out. Every day is pretty much the same. It's a bit like a continental breakfast. You have your hash browns, your sausages, eggs there too. The coffee machines there are actually really nice. But every day I had a big bowl of porridge, 2 sausages, and then I had a coffee, and then filled up my flask for the day. That was my go-to breakfast every single day. You don't know when you're going to be able to eat next, which is why I always wanted to fill myself up as much as possible. The first day, I think I had about 3 hours sleep, and everyone were literally running off of adrenaline and caffeine throughout the whole time. And also, another thing that I was recommended from the unit is that never be the best, but never be the worst. And I definitely always remembered that. You don't want to stand out by being the best, but you also don't want to be the worst, because that's when you're constantly going to be picked on. And throughout the training so far that I've had, it's very true. On the Saturday, we had tons of PowerPoints. We were just marching around everywhere to different types of classrooms. You do actually want to fall asleep. It's a bit like going back to school. You're pretty tired, even more so because the lack of sleep that we had the night before. It wasn't exactly warm, so you're pretty cold. You're sitting down for hours, so a lot of people were wanting to fall asleep, but every now and again, after an hour or so, they'd make you stand up, shake off, and then sit back down just to wake you up a bit. But there was all sorts of different PowerPoints about different things, about the basics of the army, what they expect, what their rules are, the sea drills, that's always going to be drilled into you. So that is what Saturday consists of, just pure PowerPoints. We went back to our housing, made sure everything was cleared, we hoovered, cleaned the bathrooms, and made sure everything was re-ironed again for the next day. Once we've all finished, you have a nice dinner. I must say, the food at Pirbright was absolutely delicious. We had curries, good cooked breakfasts in the morning, and that night they wanted to have our dorms checked. And that lasted a good few hours. They wanted every single room to be exactly the same. All of the boys and the girls got together, like, what we're going to do is we're just going to have a few uniforms out, literally the bare minimum, because everyone from different units get issued slightly different things. They even wanted our socks to be smiling, so you have to fold the socks in a certain way, which I found it quite cute in the end, but at the start I was like, why would you possibly want our socks to be smiling? How is this going to help us become more disciplined, having our socks with a smiley face? Anyway, they came back and forth, so the first time not everyone's were the same, so we had to wait like another hour until they came back around. We had to stand by our beds, be fully kitted still, so this is like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night time, and we were still standing by our beds having our rooms checked. But thankfully they let us go to bed again by 12 o'clock. So another day of no sleep, of being up at 4:30 again. The next day we had pretty much the same itinerary, same time being outside, literally 10 to 15 minutes to eat again. We were scoffing ourselves, and by this point, this may be too much information, but everyone was constipated. Our stomachs were bloated, we were tired. I must say I was never hungry because I was stashing so much food. I don't actually know if anyone was hungry, which was a huge bonus. And yeah, everyone just seemed very miserable by this point. Even though it had been one full day, everyone was feeling it. And I did have to say, is anyone else constipated, or is it just me? I think it was the change of diet. The stress was horrendous because they want you to be like 5 seconds to do things and you're constantly running around. So that was another thing. Sunday was completely chucking it down with rain. We were stuck outside all day in the field because we had a new lesson, which was learning how to pack our kit away correctly. We had to get all of our Bergen, our webbing, go on this grass bit and just lay all of our stuff out and learn how to pack it away correctly to make sure it's waterproof. So when you are in the field and it starts raining like it was, everything's kept dry and correctly. So that lesson wasn't actually very long, but it was very interesting because it's something that I haven't personally learned before. So after that we had more PowerPoints. And for our last lesson, we went into, I'm just going to call it a playground because I'm not sure exactly the right word to use, but it's like the army playground. So they have like barrels and they have different equipment out for you to use outside. You have different sections with different equipments. For each section, you're given different scenarios for team building. There was a bit of a tit for tat going on. It was a bit of, they were just messing around for some reason. And when you're trying to team build, it was a little bit frustrating when people weren't taking it as seriously. It was a lot of fun. So that was the last thing that we did. After that, we all had our showers. We packed our stuff away. A lot of us packed our stuff the day before because they were just so excited just to go back home. Someone from our unit came to collect us. Overall, it was a very fun weekend. It was a completely different experience. This is the army life. This is army. So I knew just going into it, it was going to be a whole different experience. And experiences which I had never known before. Everyone was tired and didn't have a lot of time to do things for ourselves. You know, you don't get a lot of time at all because for reservists, because we're there for a short amount of time, they have to cram so much into that short amount of time that it is very intense and it can get on top of you sometimes and a bit overwhelming, but it's just something that you experience. You're in the army, you always have to look out for each other and do the best as a team. But apart from that, what I would recommend is if you are going for your Mod 1, a flask and a nice drink was amazing, especially during the colder months. It was just nice sitting there while having the presentations when everyone's falling asleep and I could just sip my nice hot coffee. It's literally the small things that keep you going, and having my boiled sweets. Also, during times like lunch, dinner time, they have a lot of food available to you. So I used to take what was on offer and stash it in my pockets for later on in the day because you just don't know when you're going to be able to eat next. I always had food on me, which I found really helpful. Like I said before, it really helped just thinking of it like a game so it doesn't become so overwhelming. Remember that you're only there for such a short amount of time. Make the most out of everything. Just get really stuck in. So these are my experiences and how I found Mod 1 and just being at Pirbright. Things may be completely different at a different barracks for your training. So I hope you guys enjoyed and I'll see you guys soon.